The sound of sobbing echoed through the courtyard of St. Mary's Chapel, raw and unrelenting. It was the kind of crying that came from somewhere deep and broken, the kind that made passers-by quicken their steps and look away. Ethan Brooks heard it as he parked his car in the adjacent lot. He was early, deliberately so. His niece's birthday party started in an hour at the community center next door, and he'd promised to help set up. But that sound stopped him cold. His 7-year-old daughter, Lily, tugged at his hand. "Daddy, someone's crying." Ethan hesitated. They had places to be. People expected them. This wasn't their business. But the crying continued, desperate and alone, and something in his chest tightened. "Stay right here by the car, sweetheart," he said, making sure Lily could see him. "I'll be right back." He followed the sound around the corner of the chapel to a small courtyard garden, and stopped. A woman in a wheelchair sat alone among scattered white rose petals. She wore a wedding gown, an exquisite creation of silk and lace that must have cost thousands. Her dark hair was swept up in an elegant style with tiny pearls woven throughout. Her makeup, obviously applied with great care, was now streaked down her face in black rivulets. She was completely, utterly alone on what was clearly meant to be her wedding day. Ethan's first instinct was to back away, to give her privacy in this obviously devastating moment. But then she looked up, her brown eyes meeting his, and he saw something there that made him stay. Not just pain, but the terrible loneliness of someone drowning with no one to notice. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice hoarse. "I didn't think anyone would find me here." Ethan took a careful step forward. Do you need help?" The question sounded ridiculous even as he asked it. She obviously needed help. Everything about this scene screamed catastrophe. A bitter laugh escaped her. "Help? I don't think anyone can help me now." She gestured at herself. The dress, the wheelchair, the empty courtyard. "Today was supposed to be my wedding day. The ceremony was supposed to start 40 minutes ago. But there won't be a ceremony because the groom just informed me he can't go through with it." The words hit Ethan like a physical blow. "He left you? Today? Oh, it's better than that," she said, her voice cracking between anger and heartbreak. "He didn't just leave me today. He told me he's been trying to work through his doubts for months, trying to convince himself he could handle being married to someone in a wheelchair. Apparently, seeing me in this dress this morning was the final straw. He realized he couldn't do it, couldn't commit to a life with someone broken." She spat the last word like poison, and Ethan felt rage rising in his throat. Not at her, but at the coward who'd done this. "Where is everyone?" Ethan asked. "Your family, your friends?" "Inside, dealing with the guests, the vendors, the absolute disaster of canceling a wedding 30 minutes before it starts." She wiped her face with trembling hands. "I couldn't stay in there. I couldn't face the pity, the whispers. So I came out here to fall apart in private. Except now you're here witnessing my humiliation." "I'm not here to judge," Ethan said quietly. "And what happened isn't your humiliation. It's his." She looked at him skeptically. "Easy to say when you're not the one everyone will pity. Poor Natalie, rejected at the altar because she can't walk. That's going to be my story for the rest of my life." "Natalie, so that was her name." "That doesn't have to be your story," Ethan heard himself say. "That can be his story, the man who was too shallow to see what he had." "You don't know anything about me," Natalie said, but there was less edge in her voice now. "You're right, I don't. But I know what it's like to be abandoned by someone who promised to stay." Natalie studied his face, and Ethan saw curiosity flicker through her pain. "What do you mean?" Ethan glanced back to make sure Lily was still by the car. She was, watching him with wide eyes. "My daughter, the little girl waiting by my car. Her name is Lily. She's 7, and she has a visual impairment that's slowly worsening. The doctors say she'll likely be blind by her teenage years." Understanding dawned on Natalie's face. Her mother left us 3 years ago, Ethan continued, old wounds still tender. She said she couldn't handle it, couldn't face the reality of raising a child with special needs. She wanted a normal family, whatever that means. So she walked away, just left us. I'm sorry, Natalie whispered. I'm not telling you for sympathy. I'm telling you because I understand what it feels like when someone decides you're not worth the difficulty. When they choose their comfort over your worth. He moved closer, pulling over a stone bench so he could sit at her level. And I'm telling you that it says everything about them and nothing about you. Natalie's hands had stopped shaking. She was listening now, really listening. After my wife left, I spent months thinking maybe she was right, Ethan admitted. Maybe Lily and I were too much. Maybe we didn't deserve someone who would fight for us. But then I realized something. What? Love, real love, isn't about finding someone when everything is easy. It's about choosing to stay when things get complicated. It's about looking at someone's challenges and saying, I'm here. This doesn't change how I feel. He met her eyes. Your fiancé failed that test. But that doesn't mean you're not worth someone who will pass it. The courtyard fell quiet except for distant bird songs and the rustle of leaves. Natalie looked down at her engagement ring, then slowly, deliberately pulled it off and set it in her lap. Garrett told me this morning that he wanted a wife who could stand beside him. Not one who'd need accommodations, adjustments, special considerations. He said he wanted someone who could be his equal partner in building a life. Then he wanted the wrong things, Ethan said simply, because being an equal partner has nothing to do with walking. Before Natalie could respond, small footsteps approached, and Lily appeared, clearly having ignored her father's instruction to wait. Daddy, you've been gone forever, Lily said. Then her eyes landed on Natalie and went wide. Wow, you look like a fairy tale princess. Despite everything, despite the tears and heartbreak and ruined wedding, Natalie smiled. It was small and watery, but real. Thank you, sweetheart. I'm Natalie. I'm Lily. The little girl walked closer, completely unfazed by the wheelchair or the tears or the obvious drama. Why are you sad? Princesses in fairy tales are usually happy. Sometimes even princesses have really bad days, Natalie said gently. Lily considered this with the seriousness only a child could muster. My daddy always says that bad days are just good days in disguise. We just can't see the good part yet. Ethan felt his heart swell with pride. That's very wise, Natalie said softly. Can I sit with you? Lily asked. You look like you could use company. And without waiting for permission, Lily sat down on the stone path beside Natalie's wheelchair and reached out to touch one of the pearls in her hair. These are so pretty. Did someone special help you get ready? My sister did, Natalie said, her voice thick. This morning before. She didn't finish. Well, I think you look beautiful, Lily declared with absolute certainty. And whoever made you sad was wrong. That's what my daddy would say. Natalie's eyes filled with fresh tears, but these seemed different, softer somehow. Ethan watched his daughter and this heartbroken stranger, and he made a decision that would have seemed crazy to anyone else. He sat down on the ground beside Lily, right there in his good pants on the stone path. Natalie stared at him in surprise. You don't have to. I know, Ethan said, but I'm going to anyway. And so they sat there, the three of them, in that chapel courtyard on what should have been Natalie's wedding day. The afternoon sun filtered through the trees. Rose petals lay scattered like snow. And for the first time since Garrett had walked out, Natalie didn't feel completely alone. What's your favorite animal? Lily asked suddenly, her voice bright. Natalie blinked, thrown by the random question. I always loved horses when I was younger. Really? Do you know how to ride? I did. Before the accident. Natalie's voice caught. I worked with horses at a therapeutic riding center. That's actually where I was injured. A horse spooked during a session and I fell badly. The impact damaged my spine. I'm sorry that happened, Lily said with genuine empathy. But maybe someday you could work with horses again? Just in a different way. The simplicity of the suggestion, the childlike faith that problems had solutions, made something loosen in Natalie's chest. Maybe, she said. I hadn't thought about it. My daddy says when one door closes, we just find a window, Lily continued. Sometimes windows are even better than doors because you can see more stuff. Ethan smiled at his daughter's philosophy, then looked at Natalie. She's not wrong. After my wife left, I had to completely reimagine my life. It was terrifying. But some of the best things that happened came from being forced to find those windows. Footsteps approached, and a woman appeared around the corner. Clearly Natalie's sister, based on their similar features. She looked exhausted, her face drawn and pale. Nat, we need to. She stopped, seeing Natalie sitting with Ethan and Lily. Confusion flickered across her face. Give me a few more minutes, Rachel, Natalie said quietly. Rachel glanced at Ethan and Lily, clearly trying to piece together what was happening. Ethan offered her a reassuring nod, a silent message that her sister was safe, that they meant no harm. Rachel seemed to understand. A few more minutes. Then we really need to get you out of that dress. After Rachel disappeared back into the chapel, Lily turned to Natalie with sudden determination. You know what? We should have a party right here. A happy party to replace the sad one. Lily? Ethan started, but Natalie interrupted. Actually, that sounds perfect. Lily beamed and immediately started arranging rose petals into patterns. These can be decorations. Daddy, do you have your phone? Can we play music? Ethan pulled out his phone, scrolling through his playlists. What kind of music do princesses like? Natalie's laugh was genuine this time. I haven't been asked that in years. Then it's about time someone did, Ethan said, pressing play. Gentle acoustic music drifted from his phone. Nothing fancy, just a warm voice singing about new beginnings. For the next 20 minutes, they sat in that courtyard having Lily's impromptu party. Lily chattered about school and her guinea pig and her favorite books. Natalie found herself actually engaging, actually feeling something other than crushing despair. When it was finally time to go, Ethan stood and helped brush petals off Lily's dress. I should let you go, he said to Natalie. But before I do, he pulled out his phone. Would it be okay if I gave you my number? Not in any weird way, just if you ever need someone to talk to. Someone who gets what it's like to be left by someone who should have stayed. Natalie looked at him, really looked at him. The stranger who'd stopped when everyone else walked past. Who'd sat in the dirt beside her. Who'd shared his own pain to ease hers. Yes, she said quietly. I'd like that. After Ethan and Lily left, after Natalie's family helped her out of the wedding dress and took her home, after the longest, most devastating day of her life finally ended, she lay in bed staring at her phone. Ethan had texted, just wanted to make sure you got home okay. No need to respond if you're not up for it. Just wanted you to know someone's thinking of you. Natalie stared at the message for a long time. Then, almost without deciding to, her fingers moved. I'm home. Thank you for today. For stopping. For staying. It meant more than you'll ever know. She hit send before she could change her mind. 3 minutes later. I'm glad. And I meant what I said. If you need someone to talk to, I'm here. No pressure. Just a friend who understands. A friend. When was the last time someone had offered that with no expectations? I might take you up on that, she typed. Fair warning. I'm kind of a disaster right now. Aren't we all? Came the response. Get some rest, Natalie. Tomorrow will be better. Maybe not good yet, but better. She set her phone down and closed her eyes. The apartment was quiet. The wedding that should have happened was over. The life she'd planned was gone. But somehow, impossibly, she felt the tiniest flicker of something that might eventually become hope. The days after were brutal. Natalie had to field calls from everyone who'd been invited to the wedding. She had to deal with Garrett's belongings still in her apartment. She had to face the pity in everyone's eyes when they heard what happened. But through it all, Ethan texted. Not constantly, not intrusively, just there. How are you doing today? Saw a therapy horse at a farm. Made me think of you. Maybe someday? Lily drew you a picture. Can I send it? Each message was a lifeline. A small reminder that someone out there saw her as more than the tragic wedding story. On the 6th day after the wedding that wasn't, Ethan sent a message that was different. Lily has a school recital on Thursday. She's singing in the chorus. She asked if you'd want to come. No pressure at all, but I wanted to pass along the invitation. Natalie stared at the message. Going out, being around people, facing the world after everything, terrified her. But something about the simple, unpretentious invitation made her want to say yes. What time? She typed. 7 p.m. at Jefferson Elementary. Fair warning. The singing might be more enthusiastic than tuneful. Natalie smiled, her first real smile since the courtyard. I think I can handle that. The elementary school auditorium was packed with proud parents and grandparents. Natalie navigated her wheelchair down the aisle, feeling self-conscious about the attention, the space she needed, the accommodations. But then she saw Ethan near the front, and his face lit up when he spotted her. You came, he said, his relief obvious. I almost didn't, Natalie admitted. But Lily invited me, and I don't break promises to 7-year-olds. The recital was exactly as advertised. Enthusiastic children singing slightly off-key with complete confidence. Lily waved at Natalie from the stage, nearly missing her entrance in her excitement. After the performance, Lily ran over and threw her arms around Natalie without hesitation. You came. Did you hear me sing? You were wonderful, Natalie said honestly. A true star. Over the following weeks, something shifted. What started as kindness evolved into genuine friendship. Ethan and Natalie began meeting for coffee. Just casual conversations where they talked about everything. Books, dreams, fears, the strange new shapes their lives had taken. Natalie told him about her work with horses, about her dream of returning to it somehow, about her fears that the wheelchair made that impossible. Ethan listened without trying to fix anything, without offering empty optimism. He just listened, and somehow that was exactly what she needed. One afternoon, Natalie invited them to visit the Adaptive Riding Center where she'd started volunteering again. It was her first step back into the world she loved. Ethan and Lily showed up with a homemade banner. We're proud of you, Natalie. She'd cried when she saw it. Watching Ethan with the horses, seeing how patient he was teaching Lily proper handling techniques, Natalie felt something she thought had died with Garrett's rejection. Attraction, interest, hope. But she pushed it down. It was too soon. Too risky. Ethan was her friend, and she couldn't lose that by wanting more. For months after the courtyard, Lily had a medical emergency. Her vision had suddenly worsened dramatically, and Ethan called Natalie at midnight, his voice tight with panic. I'm sorry to call so late. We're at the hospital. She's stable, but I needed to hear a friendly voice. I'm on my way, Natalie said immediately. She arrived 40 minutes later, navigating the hospital halls until she found Ethan in the waiting area. He looked wrecked, hair disheveled, eyes shadowed with the kind of fear that never fully leaves a parent. Natalie wheeled over and took his hand without saying anything. They sat together until dawn, until the doctors confirmed that while Lily's condition had progressed, it wasn't an emergency. Just the inevitable progression they'd been warned about. Thank you, Ethan said as he drove Natalie home that morning. For showing up. For staying. That's what friends do, Natalie said. But as she said it, she realized with startling clarity that friend wasn't the right word anymore. She was falling in love with Ethan Brooks. This kind, patient, devoted father who'd seen her at her lowest and hadn't turned away. who'd made space in his life for her pain without expecting anything back, who treated her wheelchair as simply part of who she was, not a defining characteristic. And that terrified her, because what if she opened her heart again and it got shattered a second time? The moment of truth came on a Saturday in late fall, 6 months after the Courtyard. Ethan had invited Natalie to join them for a day at the state park. They packed a picnic, and Lily ran ahead collecting colorful leaves, while Ethan pushed Natalie's wheelchair along the accessible trail. "Can I ask you something?" Ethan said suddenly. Natalie's heart raced. "Okay." "That day at the chapel," he began carefully. "When I met you, you were at rock bottom. And look at you now, volunteering, smiling, living. How did you do it?" Natalie thought about the question. Really thought. "Honestly," she said. "You." Ethan looked surprised. "Me? You showed me I was worth showing up for. Garrett taught me I was a burden. But you just kept showing up. No drama, no grand gestures. Just consistently there. And gradually I started believing that maybe I wasn't as broken as I thought." Ethan was quiet for a long moment. "Natalie," he said finally, "can I tell you something that might be wildly inappropriate?" Her heart nearly stopped. "Yes. I didn't stop in that courtyard just to be kind," he said, his blue eyes meeting hers with intensity. "I mean, I did, but it became something more. Over these months, getting to know you, seeing who you are beyond that worst day, I've realized something." "What?" she whispered. "I'm falling in love with you." The world tilted. "I know that might be too much too soon," Ethan continued quickly. "I know you're still healing. I know there are 1,000 reasons why this is complicated. But I needed you to know because I don't want to just be your friend anymore. Natalie, I want more. And I need to know if that's even a possibility or if I should." Natalie kissed him. She'd never been particularly bold, but in that moment she didn't care about fear or risk or the possibility of getting hurt again. She leaned forward and kissed Ethan Brooks with everything she had. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Natalie laughed. A sound of pure joy. "Yes," she said. "Yes, it's a possibility. Yes, I'm falling for you too. Yes to all of it." Ethan's smile could have lit up the entire forest. Lily chose that exact moment to run back, waving a particularly red leaf. "Look what I found." Then she stopped, noticing how they were looking at each other. "Finally," she exclaimed. "I've been waiting forever for you two to realize you like each other." Both adults laughed, and Natalie felt something she hadn't felt in almost a year. Complete. The months that followed weren't perfect. Natalie still had bad days when the trauma haunted her. Days when she struggled with her disability and how her life had changed. Days when doubt whispered that maybe she wasn't enough. But Ethan was always there. He adapted his car to make transfers easier, not because she asked but because he paid attention. He learned about spinal cord injuries and accessibility. He introduced her to his family with pride. And when Natalie's physical therapy was brutal, he showed up with takeout and terrible movies and the understanding that sometimes love looked like just being present. Natalie was there for Ethan too. When work stressed him, she listened. When Lily's condition frightened him, she reminded him of his strength. When he doubted himself, she showed him all the ways he was succeeding. They built a life together. Not quickly, not perfectly, but authentically. 1 year after the Courtyard, Ethan took Natalie back to St. Mary's Chapel. She'd been nervous about returning. The place still held painful memories. But Ethan had asked her to trust him. They arrived in late afternoon, the same spring sunlight filtering through trees. The courtyard was filled with white roses. "Ethan, what?" He knelt beside her wheelchair and took both her hands. "Natalie, a year ago I found you here on what should have been your worst day, and I've watched you transform that pain into strength. I've watched you reclaim your dreams and show me what real courage looks like." Tears were already falling. "You've shown Lily what resilience means. You've shown me what it feels like to be truly seen and loved." And you've proven that the right person doesn't see obstacles. They see opportunities to love better. He pulled out a velvet box. The first wedding dress you wore was meant for the wrong person. I want to give you a new memory, a better one. One where someone asks not because they're settling, but because they genuinely cannot imagine life without you. He opened the box, revealing a simple, beautiful ring. Natalie, will you marry me? Yes, she gasped through tears. Yes, absolutely yes. As Ethan slipped the ring on her finger, Lily appeared from behind a tree holding a sign. Will you be my bonus mom? Natalie sobbed with joy, pulling both of them into her arms. 3 months later, they married at St. Mary's Chapel in a small ceremony. Natalie wore a simple white dress and wheeled herself down the aisle, giving herself freely, fully, without reservation. Ethan waited at the altar with Lily beside him. When Natalie reached them, Ethan knelt beside her wheelchair, and they held hands as the officiant spoke about commitment, about showing up, about the extraordinary power of ordinary love. When they kissed, the small gathering erupted in applause. As they left the chapel, Natalie looked back at the courtyard one last time. A year ago, she'd sat in that spot believing her life was over, believing she was unlovable, believing the wheelchair had stolen her chance at happiness. But she'd been wrong. The wheelchair hadn't stolen anything. It had revealed everything. It had shown her who truly loved her and who didn't. It had filtered out shallow love and led her to something real. Garrett had left because he saw the wheelchair as a barrier. Ethan had stayed because he saw Natalie as the life he wanted. And that made all the difference.